Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of RoutingBox Friday Live. I am Jonathan Anthon, and this one's going to be big for the folks in New York State. So if you are in New York, we'll have this video ready for you, and we're going to send a recap out to everybody via email. So we'll have this video, but make sure you share it with your employees, share it with your friends. There's going to be a lot of important content today because there's a lot going on in New York with some changes from MAS and how they're handling some things with trips beginning June 1st. We have a new integration to announce for our friends in New York City, Westchester County, and Long Island. And then we actually just had some messages go across from Logisticare about some changes coming to New York. So a lot happening in New York. We wanted to cover all of this and talk to you about how both, just in general, you'll want to manage these types of things and give you some tips, but also go through kind of how RoutingBox can help you with that. So whether you're a RoutingBox customer, maybe someone who's considering software, some of these changes are going to really make you want to consider software because they're really forcing you to have some more tools than you've had in the past. So we're going to give it a couple minutes to have some folks join live that want to join us today. For those of you that caught us, we've been sending this out via our newsletter, advertising on our Facebook page. We sent out an email blast today. We are going to follow up with an email blast that will give you a quick recap of what was discussed, as well as a link to this video. So again, if you can't stay with us, or if there's someone that you wish you could have had join, but they're not available, no problem. We're going to go ahead and share this with you so we can come back to it. If you have questions during the video, please go ahead and post a comment. We are monitoring for questions so that we can answer those questions live during the video if possible. Even if you're watching this recorded, no big deal. So feel free to post your questions. We'll be monitoring the page, looking for questions as well. As always, you can also email us, info@routingbox.com. That's info at routingbox.com. Or you can call us 716-202-9121, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about this video, about the changes, anything we can answer to the best of our ability, and then also obviously anything about RoutingBox. So let's go ahead and get started. Real quick first, I do want to make a quick announcement for our friends in New York City, Westchester County, and then Nassau and Suffolk counties out on Long Island. You have a broker that's taken over some trips in the area called CTG. We're happy to announce that our integration with CTG is up and live. So I think they're giving priority to the folks that do have that integration. So if you are a RoutingBox user and you have CTG and you don't have the integration set up yet, please reach out to us, let us know. We'll get that set up for you, so that's all ready to go for your CTG trips. If you are with CTG and you do not have RoutingBox and you want to learn more about this, give us a call, email, post on here. We'll get back to you and we'll talk more about that. Or if you're with RoutingBox but you do not do trips for CTG, if you're in that area, they have asked us to reach out. They are looking for transportation providers for livery trips, ambulatory, ambulette, wheelchair, across the board. So whatever capabilities you have, they are looking for more providers in the area. So if you have RoutingBox, you want us to connect you to CTG, please reach out to us. Again, info@routingbox.com, and we'll make that handoff and introduce you, and you can decide if you want to move forward with becoming a provider for them. So I know there's a lot of you looking to grow your businesses, add more trips. That's a great way to do it. Second item on our agenda, and I think this is the big one that's impacting the most people, so we're going to spend some time on this. MAS, Medical Answering Services, obviously they're the main broker here in New York, and a lot of changes have come down June 1st. So I know there's a couple emails that have come out as messages from MAS. They should appear as messages on your portal as well. So if you haven't read them, please go back and read the messages in full to get your own recap. But I'm going to give you kind of a quick recap of the items that really pertain to us from a software perspective. So the first thing is they're asking every provider to provide a trip capacity. How many trips can you do in a day? Obviously, there are a lot of factors that go into that, but a lot of the things kind of come out in the wash. So if you are a RoutingBox user, we have some really cool tools that can help you identify how many trips you've had on average during maybe a given date range. So you want to identify some times that maybe there weren't any weird things where vehicles had to come off the road that might have decreased trips or things like that. But we can go and look at how many trips you've been handling, and then obviously based on your workload, if you're tapped out, if you can add a little bit more, or if you're just right, we'll be able to help you maybe identify what you should put in there as that capacity. The other tip I'll give you is make sure you take into account no-shows, not just completed trips. Because obviously MAS doesn't know when they're assigning it if it's a no-show or not. So when you're looking at your capacity, those no-shows are going to factor in there. Make sure you're considering no-shows when you're looking at what your capacity is, because that's going to have a huge impact. Second thing that MAS is going to ask for is zip codes that you're willing to do pickups in, a list of those zip codes. If you want to kind of measure the value of some zip codes versus others or some areas, We do have some very cool tools in RoutingBox where you can zone off certain areas and look at things that way. So you can kind of take a look and say, you know what, I only do one trip a week in the zip code. I'm just not going to add on the list, so I don't have to worry about going way out there. You can do that. The other really cool thing they have here that is unique is there's the ability to have providers that are exceptions. So if you want to be able to not take trips in a zip code, but go to one provider in that zip code that you have a relationship with, you can do that. And again, if you're using the providers function in RoutingBox, great way to easily identify who some of those folks might be, who one of those providers might be, so that you can do that. So don't feel obliged to take all the trips in that zip code if you want to do just one provider. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is the new way that same day, next day trips are going to be distributed. So right now, if you have a trip coming up kind of the next 24 hours, MAS is going to call you and alert you and really ask you if you can take that trip. What's changing is now MAS is not going to call. They're going to just assign the trip if it falls within your capacity, and you'll be expected to take that trip. And then, reassigns are going to be reported to the Department of Health. So this obviously is a change where you're not getting that phone call. It's going to be tough to know that that trip is coming if you're not using a strong software solution. So as many of you know, we work very closely with MAS and some of the tools that they have available to software providers like us. And we have a direct connection now to MAS that we've actually beefed up a little bit to make it an automatic import tool. So quickly, I want to show you the direct connection as it works now. So we're going to show you that on the monitor here and exactly as that works, and then we'll kind of tie that into how the auto importer is going to function. So to use the importer now, just choose the importer from the banner. We're going to select the account to import. Most of you do this as a multi-account. Ours is going to be, we're just going to choose New York Medicaid. And then for the import file source, all you do is click that arrow and choose MAS Direct Connection. So this is going to open up the direct connection to MAS. We're going to choose a data service that we're going to download. Do we want all the trips, just trips that are new or changed, or just trips that are new? For this exercise, to show it to you, we're just going to use all trips for now. And go ahead and we'll click OK. And then essentially we're going to go into MAS with our connection, and we're going to pull down all of the trips for that given date into the importer. Excuse me. So so here's all of our trips, and this is geocoding the addresses, making sure addresses are good. You'll see some of these folks are bold in green. That means they're new. We're creating new profiles for them. They've never been transported before. These folks have been transported before, so we're checking the trip against their profile for possible exceptions. So normally we just click import trips. That would import the trips. So for the auto importer, couple changes here. So what this is going to do is when you turn the auto importer on, you're not going to have to do this all the time. It's going to run automatically. And the way it's going to run is for tomorrow's trips, it'll run every 17 minutes. So it's going to run the newer changed function every 17 minutes looking for any changes to tomorrow's schedule so you can start to plan ahead. For today, which is obviously the really important thing with the changes from MAS, it's going to run every 3 minutes as it stands right now. So it's going to run that newer changes every 3 minutes, and then it's going to run the all trips every hour. And that's just in case a trip kind of disappears for some reason. We'll be able to, or it isn't properly flagged as changed. It's really a new trip that isn't flagged properly. We're just going to make sure that everything gets its way into RoutingBox so we don't have anything go missing. So this is going to, again, run every few minutes. The one validation that sticks is the address changes. So if you have an address that comes through that can't be geocoded, as you probably know, in RoutingBox there's a tool you can use that will save the change to the address. And that so essentially anytime that bad address comes in, it gets fixed automatically. That will still function within the automatic importer. But some of the other validations don't. So I'm not going to go into all the details around that. There's actually quite a few different things that could impact your operation. So if you're using RoutingBox now and you want to explore using this, our ask is reach out to us via phone and let's have a conversation. We'll look into how you're using RoutingBox and how those validations affect your operation so that you can decide what's best for you, whether it be the auto importer or another option. So if you want to take a look at this, you want to keep getting same-day trips. If you're an existing RoutingBox customer, reach out to our support team. Let's talk about how you're using some of those other things. We'll take a look at that and make sure that we don't put you in a bad spot by just activating this. Because the last thing we want to do is activate this but cause other problems. So we can help you make the proper adjustments. Another thing that's come up with this is right now this importer does not pick up cancels. And we chose not to do that because the way that it works is basically when we do the call to the to MAS to ask for all of the trips, basically if the trip isn't there anymore but we have it, they say just cancel it, and that's how you know it's canceled. We've seen in the past where sometimes trips end up disappearing for whatever reason, so then the trip gets canceled in RoutingBox even though maybe it shouldn't be canceled. So because of the need for kind of live, real information with these changes, we are going to open that up as a setting. So if you'd like the cancellations to come in automatically based on the trip not being there anymore, we can turn that on for you, and those trips will cancel automatically in RoutingBox. If you don't want that, if you want to kind of keep an eye on those cancellations, we can do that too. That will be again a setting. So that's the auto importer. So again, it's every 3 minutes looking for new or changed. Every hour it's going to run all trips just to make sure that it's catching everything. And then again, the next day every 17 minutes, and making sure that we're getting the next day's trips in. So again, if you want to learn more about this, you can comment on this video. You can certainly send us an email. For this, I'd send it to support, SUPPORT, at intelligentbits.com. That's INTELLIGENTBITS.com. Send an email to them with any questions you have, or to set up a time to chat to see if this makes sense for you. Again, you can also comment on Facebook or call us, 716-202-9121. Let's have a conversation about it, see if this makes sense for you. So again, and any other questions about the MAS changes, please reach out to us. We'll answer them to the best of our ability, and we can talk through how RoutingBox can help you manage those changes, whether it be because you are an existing RoutingBox customer or someone who's interested in adding RoutingBox with these changes. One more thing happening in New York, Logisticare. So some messages just went out that Logisticare is going to start requiring providers in New York State to use a software provider that is approved to have their what's called their ATMS integration, which is their direct integration, just like this. You'll actually see on the source here where it says MAS Direct Connection, you'll see that there's actually also an option for Logisticare ATMS. So we are one of Logisticare's approved ATMS connected software providers. So we do fulfill that requirement for you. But it looks like they're going to start in the very near future reducing trips for folks that don't have the ATMS integration, and their long-term strategy, as we've seen it across the country, is to essentially require providers to have this in order to work with them. So it works very much the same way with bringing trips in. It pulls all the data in for you, but it also does the same thing for any trips that are going out from a billing perspective. So it direct connects to Logisticare to send the billing information out. So very cool, very efficient, saves a lot of time and a lot of effort into both billing and your scheduling side of your business. So the ATMS integration is awesome. Same contact info if you're doing Logisticare, you want to learn more about this, 716-202-9121. Comment in the video, send us an email, info@routingbox.com. All right, so that was a lot of information. Does anybody, Elise, do we have any questions on the thread currently from anybody?
Will auto import of each hour result in duplicate trips and dispatch?
It could. So if, again, that's kind of one of the things that they're, depending on how things are working, is going to impact whether or not this makes sense for you. So again, that's why we're asking that we reach out to our support team. Let's talk about how you're operating and how that's happening to see what makes sense for you. So again, that's kind of, let's talk about it and we'll see how it works. Do we have any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know this was a little bit longer, but it's certainly important content, especially for folks in New York State. Again, we're going to send out an email recap along with our RB Friday this week, as well as just a general email recap to everybody, even those that aren't using RoutingBox, so that you can share this with your coworkers, with your friends in the business, anybody else that you think might want this type of information. So if you need us, you let us know. We'll happy to help you however we can. But in the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you again next week. Thanks, everybody.